great example that I recently read about in a book that I'm reading about this idea. It's a great picture of this. It's this process called kintsugi, and it's where people take broken pieces of ceramics and put them back together, but instead of just putting them back together and then hiding the cracks to not show the cracks, they actually accentuate the cracks by tracing the cracks with gold. That's what those pictures are. That's gold in the cracks there. And when they do this process through this pottery, if I ever get a broken glass, we just had this happen yesterday. When something breaks, what do I do with it? I throw it out. It has no value whatsoever. But this process, which is so unique, is that when it's brought together, they don't try to hide the cracks, they accentuate the cracks by tracing it with gold. And guess what happens to the value of that pottery? So much so that the Japanese invented this process in the 1500s. People were actually fakes, imposters. They would actually do this on purpose. They would break pottery on purpose in order to profit more money because they knew that this process would actually create more value. Isn't that great? Isn't that a great picture of what God does through our brokenness? The reality is we're all broken people. Welcome to the club of Crosstown. You're broken. And this is why this is a place of grace. But what's so interesting is that God takes our brokenness, he takes our cracks, he takes our flaws, he takes our mistakes, and he does something through them when we bring them to the cross. He traces it with his blood, molds us back together, and we actually become more beautiful than we could ever possibly imagine and more valuable in God's kingdom than we could ever possibly imagine. And he would use us to influence the earth. He would use us to bring glory to his name. And so here's what I want you to remember, this little phrase. When Jesus looks at broken, he sees beautiful. When Jesus looks at broken, he sees beautiful. He doesn't see your cracks and flaws. Actually, that was all taken care of at the cross when he brought life out of death. He actually just sees you, God the Father sees you as his son, Jesus. And if you would ask him to work in your life, he knows how to take all that brokenness and all that pain and all that shame and all those cracks and all those flaws. Some of us, we've got more than others. And when we bring it before him, he takes our brokenness and turns it into something really, really beautiful. Like Sandy's story, where you influence other people. But you know where that starts? This is where it all boils down to. You know where that starts? It starts with this thing called mourning. It starts by, in your moment of great loss, you step towards God, not away. And you allow him to comfort you and meet you in the space that was broken, that was a result of your loss. And he comes into that space with himself. And then you're mourning your sin. And you don't just wallow in self-pity that you're just this horrible person, you repent. And then you realize that meekness is not weakness, but it's power under control. It's under God's control. And when you do that, there's this beautiful thing that happens. He takes your mourning, he takes your meekness, and he accomplishes his purpose. You'll be a person who's blessed through comfort. You'll be a person who inherits this earth where he uses you for his glory.